and Lights Out, Nat King Cole at the New York Theater Workshop. As much as Nat King Cole's name may be in the title, and it's very much about one of the last episodes of the Nat King Cole show, because of the way Sammy Davis Jr. is portrayed and how he is used as a sort of alter ego or the mindset of Nat King Cole, eventually it barely feels about the character as much as it is Daniel Watts and what he can bring to the show. So to summarize the play, it's a musical. To summarize the musical, it's the final night of the Nat King Cole show, and after about a year run, there's still a desire to bargain rather than give in to the grief of losing the show. However, the lacking of support behind the scenes, the lacking of support financially, it seems that it's going to end up being lights out for the show. But with a mischievous energy presented as the spirit of Sammy Davis Jr., if not Sammy Davis Jr. himself, it seems that while the lights may go out on the show, it may be with an explosion rather than with a flick of the switch. So getting into the review section, Dule Hill, I think I said his name right, he definitely embodies Nat King Cole, and I believe he gives a sense of that story that is rarely, if ever, told about Nat King Cole. For when it comes to Nat King Cole, generally speaking, he's not someone that's necessarily pushed to be like a big-time civil rights leader. He doesn't join Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, and others from that time, James Brown, whoever. I think James Brown might be a little bit later, but you get it. Nat King Cole was a crooner. He seemed very much about this, it's about the career, an audience is an audience, but what Dule Hill performs well in, and even pushes you to kind of research on your own after the show is over, is how Nat King Cole actually wrestled with all that. Yes, he could potentially be seen like as an exception, one of the good ones, stuff like that, but he did have some civil rights activism. It's just he wasn't boisterous. He was very much more so willing to be behind the scenes, integrate as he could, but you see this kind of that push and pull. He wants to have a career. He has to take care of his kids and, also try to pave the way for them. But, he's still a black man, never mind one from Alabama. He experienced racism through that when he was attacked on that stage. And I think it was Alabama, too, where he's from. And the way Dule Hill handles that is masterful. And I would even say when it comes to the singing, I am 90% sure he did his own singing and there wasn't a backing track. And I only say that because there are certain imperfections with the way that the delivery was, so that it felt like it was an impersonation, but it was a good enough impersonation so that you can get the inflections and stuff like that, that it is Nat King Cole, rather than him trying to do a straight up one and do the notes, do the song exactly the same way. And I would just say, just giving Nat King Cole the lens of expression that was given, it's not known whether or not we may ever get a biopic. I mean, considering Coleman Domingo wrote this, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't try to eventually adapt this into something that he could potentially play in. But as of right now, Hill is definitely giving Nat King Cole new life and a means of telling his story in a way that may not be the best for reasons we'll get into in a little bit, but at the very least, it is something. So for the next two highlights, it's more so how some actors play specific characters. Like, for example, Kenita Miller plays Helena Coles, Nat King Cole's mother, and between the way she handles playing his mother, kind of showing how she took this potential hothead of a kid and took that passion and helped him channel into music, to hearing her sing, unfortunately interrupted, lift every voice and sing. And then these comedic moments where she does this commercial for the Nat King Cole show where she's playing this woman who has a boss that gets on her nerves. She's trying to go off on her, but the commercial's for a toothpaste commercial where you're just supposed to smile and grin through it. She played it well, and it's interesting to watch her hit all those different types of characters and really show versatility, being in a maternal role, being a comedic role, being one that's very much empowering to the point where if they didn't interrupt the song with other stuff that was going on, it could possibly make you cry. It reminded me a little bit of, I'll put the person's name at the bottom, but the woman who was in Hell's Kitchen, who thankfully got a Tony Award for it. I can't remember her name offhand, but it's not the same, but I feel like those two are kind of a similar ilk. And if Kenita Miller got the kind of role that she needs, she could likely join Name at the Bottom and being a Tony Award winner. Following that up, when it comes to Crystal Joy Brown as Eartha Kitt, I don't know if it's about seeing Eartha Kitt in some form live in a person, or is it just way that the way that Brown played Eartha Kitt. I mean, it could be a little bit of both, but either way, watching this playfulness, the sensuality, just getting a sense of the entertainer that Eartha Kitt was, it really makes me hope that just based off of watching Brown's performance, that we eventually do get some type of musical, especially if it's a jukebox musical, or even just, I think Eartha Kitt's daughter has long been trying to make a biopic, which feels way overdue considering Eartha Kitt every now and again seems to like pop up back and get viral on social media, especially with the whole I Don't Dream of Labor, amongst other things. So he is hoping that somebody watches this that has producer money and it kind of puts a flash in the pan type of thought or whatever so that it eventually gets produced. Which leads to the two on the fence topics, which are kind of closely interrelated, but to begin, we have to talk about Daniel J. Watts. Daniel J. Watts in this is a complete ham, over the top, jester-like, and as much as it's going to entertain you, at the same time, it feels like it eclipses everything else that you would think that this production is trying to do. As Sammy Davis Jr. or the mischievous or intrusive thoughts of Nat King Cole, there comes a point where Dule Hill, as good as he is as an actor, he gets completely eclipsed. And you're going to be mainly focused on if there's any kind of movement from the side, you're going to be like, is that Daniel Watts or rather Sammy Davis Jr. about to pop up, say something crazy, do something weird, maybe break the fourth wall, or even, generally speaking, when I go to New York Theater Workshop, I sit in the first row, and he was running across the first row doing this weird thing, and it's, to be completely honest with you, as much as I can appreciate how much energy and life he gives to this, at the same time, him almost giving like mischievous demon type of energy, at times it felt like he was supposed to be the person who's supposed to relieve you of all that is the darkness, that is what was going on in Nat King Cole's mind. And with each joke he did, each kind of comical interaction, even if it was about something serious, it lightened things up so much to the point where when Nat King Cole was dealing with a producer who got so frustrated with him because he was thinking that Nat was being grateful and yada yada yada, then Watts does something funny and it just takes all of the oomph out of the moment, and it's back to being this weird sort of, I want to say dark comedy, but I don't know. But the main issue, as we're clearly getting to, is that this is supposed to be about showing a different side to Nat King Cole. It's about showing that even if he wasn't the most outspoken civil rights activist, he still was a pioneer in his own right. He still went through things as a black man. And unfortunately, a lot of it isn't documented in a way that allows him to be fully recognized and seen as his peers were. But again, because of Daniel Watts kind of being like Rafiki in A Lion King, wise, playful, but also a little bit, out there, a lot of what you're supposed to take from watching Cole go through this with his producers, with how they wanted to put more makeup on him to make him look more lighter for the South and stuff like that, it feels like it gets underplayed or just pushed down, while Watts gets to be a big, huge character who seemingly wants to audition to be David Ruffin in Motown or The Temptations, because that's really how big he is. That's how much he kind of takes over this whole production and leaves you kind of more in the mindset of thinking he's the star rather than Nat King Cole or Dule Hill. Even when it comes to them actually having to play off each other, like when they do this tap dancing number, again, it feels like one of those rare moments where Sammy Davis Jr. or Nat's intrusive thoughts is supposed to be someone who is complimenting him, But outside of that one moment, it's pretty much those two competing with Watts usually coming out on top. But overall, while we're very mixed about Watts' performance and feel like it should have been reined in, if not made to fit the more subtle stylings of Nat King Cole, there's no denying that he's very entertaining to the point that even if he does kind of water down in some ways the message that clearly is supposed to be in this, you can still get the message. It's going to very much seem like for this bitter pill that is racism, and specifically the brand of the kind that Nat King Cole went through, there's going to be a lot of sugarcoating on top. And you'll still be able to swallow it, get what you need, but in some ways, you may find yourself questioning, could this have been more better, more impactful, poignant, all those type of words, if we didn't have this almost comic relief character keeping us from really getting into the darkness, the mind, the potential trauma, and more that Nat King Cole went through.